Russia continues to try to control what its citizens read about the invasion of Ukraine, with international news sites banned and pretty heavy restrictions on Russian news websites. CGTN's Duncan Hooper has been watching the messaging for us. Russia has claimed they're under an information attack, and on this pretext have blocked a number of internet news sites they accuse of spreading misinformation. How much of the internet, how much of the web is really blocked in Russia? Have we any way of pinning this down?
Well, first of all, Jamie, let me try and explain what they've actually done. So when you connect to the internet, you send a message from your computer via something called an ISP, an internet service provider, which then goes to the World Wide Web, collects what you need and brings it back. It's a bit like a postman, if you like. It delivers the information that you want. And since 2019, the Russian government has mandated that every ISP in Russia needs to have some software installed, and you'll excuse the jargon again, which does something called deep packet inspection. Deep packet inspection, exactly as it says on the tin, allows the service provider to look at the packages, the parcels of information being delivered to you, and see who they're coming from. And that then allows them to say, OK, we want to deliver this from this certain provider, but we don't want it from someone else. And they can block those. And that's what they've been doing. Now, users can circumvent this. So there's something called a virtual private network. It allows people essentially to bypass the internet service provider, but that is illegal. Even so, we've seen a big rise in users using that. Between 400 and 1,000% increase since these restrictions were brought in. So obviously it's something that people are trying to do. Now, Russia's actually planning, and it's done some tests on this, to create its own separate internet, which is completely cut off from the rest of the world. It's called RuNet. And it says it needs this to protect itself from cyber attacks. But as a byproduct, it would also allow the government to have much more control over what citizens see. So what are they actually doing? Well, they've said they've blocked sites such as the BBC, which had a real surge in interest following the start of the military operation, and other sites such as Meduza, which is a site based in Latvia, and other media sites too, and they've blocked Facebook. They've said they're blocking Twitter, but I've spoken to people in Russia today. They say they can still get hold of Twitter. It seems that what's actually happening is the government is slowing down the traffic, making it very difficult to use. It's not clear why they're doing that rather than blocking it. And Facebook is, as you know, the biggest social media site in the world, although that's not entirely the case in Russia. And that's because a competitor, a local competitor called VK, has taken hold and got a grip on that market. So you can see from the chart that the most popular sites in Russia do remain open. The red ones that you see there, they're the ones that are shut. Facebook, as we mentioned, Twitter, which has certainly slowed down to the extent lots of people can't use it, and TikTok, which has suspended its services. But there are still sites that people can use, and it certainly wouldn't be true to say the internet is closed down.
Duncan, on those platforms that are up and running, is the content in line with the Russian official narrative?
It really varies platform by platform, Juliet. So VK, I mentioned earlier, it's known as being very close to the Kremlin, so much so that its owner was amongst those sanctioned by the US at the beginning of the crisis. And it's got a reputation for hosting a lot of nationalist content. It's also known to take down content very quickly when the authorities ask it, usually on the grounds that the content is extremist or that it contains child pornography or now misinformation. But the Western platforms have been a little bit more reticent. They are obliged by law to take down material when asked by the government, but they've done it slowly and less consistently. Some reports say that YouTube gets 10 times as many requests in Russia to take down content than anywhere else in the world. But a case study I think we could look at would be Instagram. So that is owned by Facebook's parent company, Meta. It is still available in Russia. And I looked today at a feed of posts tagged from in Moscow. And a lot of that is the normal fare that you would expect, selfies of people, very arty ones, sunsets, product placement, but it also includes some support for the Russian military, and that often features the letter Z, which has come to symbolise the crisis. But among that, there's also criticism of the campaign, particularly images of civilians who've got caught up in the fighting. So there's one I noticed of a young girl who got killed in Mariupol. There's a car that's been shot up by the side of the road. And while these posts are tagged in Moscow, it's not, I don't think the people are there. If they were there, they would be subject potentially to a jail term. But it's certainly clear that there is a diversity, although much more limited than it was a few days ago.
Duncan, thank you very much indeed for that. CGTN's Duncan Hooper.